Thank you very much. I think this is an evening of celebration. We're here to celebrate this wonderful writer, Vishwas Patil. We're here to celebrate Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. And I think we should celebrate also the translator who's done such a splendid job of rendering a complex and dense and somewhat lengthy novel into very accessible and readable English. And congratulations, I think, to Westland Eka, because they've been doing some remarkable work in publishing translated books. And this, I think, in many ways marks a further step forward. Now, when I look at Vishwas Patil's life and career, it's quite remarkable because he has quite a wide range, as you just heard Dr. Srinivasa Rao explain. His fiction has straddled some remarkable range of topics and themes. But what is striking, I think, that's particularly special and distinctive is that he seems to have specialized in the novelization of history. That is to take events of the past and characters of the past and humanize them through the medium of fiction. This is no easy task because, especially in a country like ours where people are easily offended, you have to be very careful when you start ascribing thoughts, feelings, emotions, passions to people who actually lived and who have their own followers and very often their own fanatic fans. But that Vishwas Patil has been able to pull it off for such a wide range of characters, to write a novel about the life of Subhash Chandra Bose and a novel at the same time about Shivaji speaks volumes to his deftness of touch and his skill as a writer. On top of that, Shivaji himself is an extraordinarily interesting figure to read about today in any Indian language. I think it's no surprise when Vishwasji tells me that the book is flourishing in translation in Kannada, in Marathi, in Hindi, and in many other languages. What I think this speaks to is a hunger on the part of the Indian reading public to see their past come alive, to see their history come alive. And in the hands of a master storyteller, that can be phenomenal. And we all know that Shivaji has gone through various renderings in the national imagination. We've had the demonization of him, as Gadkari Sahab reminded us, as a lutera, as a brigand, as a bandit. That was from the partisans of the Mughal side. Then we had the rendering of him as the brave anti-colonial resistance figure. And this notion of resistance, I wouldn't say, Srinivasa Raoji, that he was a vanquished figure. He was a figure of resistance. He was not the triumphant overlord, but the man who stood up from the bottom. You've had different interpretations even within Maharashtra. Jyotiba Phule's interpretation of Shivaji as a voice of the subaltern, as it were, as the voice of the underclass rising up to claim its due, versus, say, the Bal Gangadhar Tilak version of Shivaji as the original Hindu nationalist. You've got all of these interpretations, and which Shivaji comes across to you as most relevant depends on your own predilections and how persuasive these different arguments are. In the hands of a novelist, what you see is both these things and more. You see the human being. I was interested to see Nitin Gadkari talking about Shivaji's secularism, because this is something that is frequently underappreciated even by his own fans. I remember writing a few years ago that one of the things that struck me about Shivaji when I read about him was that he gave strict instructions to his soldiers. After any of these conquests, if they ever came across a Quran, they should pick it up, treat it with respect until they could find a Muslim to hand it over to. That was the kind of, those were the values that Shivaji imparted. We all know about his chivalry towards women, the extraordinary grace with which he dealt with people, and the fact that his army consisted of people of every caste. Literally every caste, from Dalits to Brahmin, were there with him, around him, amongst his courtiers, amongst his soldiers. He had Muslim soldiers, Muslim artillery captains. There was absolutely no bigotry in Shivaji. And Nitin Gadkari was right to point this out as something underappreciated in the story of Shivaji's life. Something that is worth celebrating in Vishwas Patil's work is the research. He's done 30 years of research on all of this. I'm told that when you know about the famous battle, the siege of Panhala, and how Shivaji escaped with an arduous 60-kilometer trek through the Sahyadri forest, Apparently, Vishwas Patil went and walked through the Sahyadri forest himself for 60 kilometers in the monsoon rains to get a sense of what Shivaji must have gone through and what he would have seen and experienced, so that his description of that reflects his understanding of the geography, the conditions, the real experiences. That's fine, remarkable work, and I congratulate Vishwasji for that. I think I join everyone in saying how much we look forward to the next 2 volumes of the quartet. This is going to be a quartet on Shivaji, and we've had 2 volumes out in English now, 2 more to come. And I certainly wish that he will continue writing at great length. He won the Sahitya Academy Award at the age of 32. So I think you have this great temptation to rest on your laurels, but I'm glad you haven't done that, and that you have picked up and managed to continue writing, and not just writing, but writing great stuff. I think you're also very lucky in your translator, Vishwasji, because one of the problems with much translation is that it reads like a translation. And this is something which I would say only in the last 10 or 15 years have Indian publishers truly been able to give us volumes of Indian literature in English that reads very smoothly for a native speaker of English. And that, I think, is going to be a big asset for your book to travel around the country and travel around the world. So congratulations to Nadeem Khan for that. Vishwasji very kindly presented me Nadeem Khan's translation of his best-selling, lakhs of copies sold work, Panipat. And I'm looking forward to reading that too, because I've often been asked when I published my own book on British colonialism, many people would come and ask me, so if the British had not come, what might have been the history of our country? And I said, well, of course, there were other colonialists around, the Dutch, the French, and so on. But if all of them had been kept at bay, it seemed to me that we were well on the course of getting a nationwide Maratha empire, very much like what happened in Japan, where the shoguns, who were a warrior caste like the Marathas, ruled the country with a titular emperor, and the Marathas are very good at that. They kept the Mughal emperor on the throne, de facto a prisoner. They told him what to do, what he could sign, what he could eat, etc. But he was there as a symbol while they ruled underneath, and that was a very effective system of governance. It worked for the shoguns in Japan. It would have worked for the Marathas in India. And I think that's what we would have had. But 2 things ended that. One was, of course, British colonialism. You remember the Maratha forces were held back from reaching Calcutta by the so-called Maratha ditch dug by the British. And on the west, of course, it was the Third Battle of Panipat, where Ahmad Shah Abdali, who had no desire to conquer India, live here, nothing, but he had a terrible impact, as it were, a tragic impact on our history by decimating the Maratha forces of that battle. And so it would really be fascinating to read your novel. I'm looking forward to it. But equally, I want to thank Vishwasji for resurrecting history in the form of fiction. I think it is so important that all of us accept that most people enjoy reading novels. They don't as seriously read history. So if you can give them history in the form of a novel, you are doing a great service to our culture and our national consciousness also, because I think our readers will indeed have much to gain from perusing all these works, but in particular the book that we are now releasing today. So my congratulations again to Vishwas Patil, to Nadeem Khan, to Westland Eka for the publication of The Wild War Front. My very best wishes for its success and the continued success of all your books, especially the sequels to come. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.